In terms of BDD, we'll look into what is BDD, which is basically an extension to TDD. So, and it's actually written in English type grammar. So, like kind of given when then. So, it just allows you to explain what the behavior of the application is, and also for the user to be able to understand what the application is doing, basically. So, and you can as well use example to explain what the requirement should do. So everything is basically in English. So if you are going to be writing your requirement or you are going to be specifying your test, you can write it in English like actually, so that people can understand what you are testing. So BDD allows you to do that. And then in BDD, there are different features that are in BDD. So different features. One allows you to collaborate between maybe a BA, QA, and also development leaders. Also, like I've explained, it's actually English basically. So it's easy for you to describe things. So, and it's driven by business value. So also I've also said it's actually an extension of TDD basically. So, and there are different frameworks actually that you can use for TDD. So, and you have Cucumber, you have Specflow, you have JBF, and other like that. And so, for in this particular training, we're going to be using Specflow because we are going to be developing in C#. So, but bear in mind, so even though we are going to be focusing on Specflow and Cucumber and Specflow, there's no difference actually in how BDD is written. So if you know how to write in Specflow, you would also technically know how to do it in Cucumber anyway, because they are the same Gherkin language actually. So, and it's just simple grammar anyway. So, and the only difference that in Cucumber and Specflow is Cucumber is used with Java test framework and Specflow is used for C# test framework. So that is the difference, to be honest. So, and yeah, so, and the reference, if you want to, you can, the Tools QA is a very good resource that you can use for this particular description. So if you want to go in there. So yeah, okay. Using Gherkin language in Specflow. So we're going to look into this syntax of this particular Specflow, and also we're going to look into several commands that you can actually use for this. So, and the first command that we're going to use is a comment. So you can put a comment in your Gherkin by using the hash sign. So if you write anything in Gherkin in your Specflow and you start with a hash sign, so it shows that it's basically like a comment, or you just want to explain something, and you can put it you can start that particular text with hash sign. So if you don't know what a comment actually means, it means that the computer should not interpret that particular line. So it's basically like I just want something to explain what I'm doing, and or you want to elaborate something, or you've written a feature file and you don't need it again and you don't want to delete it, so you can comment it out, so by putting the hash sign. Then also in a feature file, you have your feature and you have your scenario, you have your steps. So we're going to look into what actually comprise all these particular divisions that you have and how you can put them together. So this is an example of a feature file. So you will start with please bear in mind you don't put those 1, 2, 3. I just put that those 1, 3 is just there for you to know on each of the lines actually, because we're going to be talking about those lines later. So you don't actually put 1, 2, 3 or number line in your Gherkin file. So the first thing that you have in your Gherkin is your feature. That's a keyword. So that it basically is like your test condition. So what exactly you are testing. So you put a descriptive test on what exactly you want to test. So then after that, you have some other text that you can actually describe it fully on what you are doing. So we're going to do a practical experience examples about this. So after the feature, then when you've written your description, you would also write scenario. So scenario, as also you write scenario follow with a semicolon or a colon rather, and also you would put a text of that particular scenario. You can have many scenarios in a feature. So a feature can have many scenarios. So, and then when you put the title of that scenario, you will put your given when then clause. Given will be with some precondition, and you can have and if you have more than one given, right? If you have more than one precondition, you can concatenate them with and basically. So for instance, given I log into given I am a registered user of Giftread and I log in with my username, and then so when you perform an action so and you will have it in that order, given when. So when will be the actions that all the actions that you want to perform. So you can as well put them in an and clause if there are more than one action. So and you can do that. So it doesn't, you can do many and actually if there are more than one. Then after that it follows with an and. So when you do and then it follows with a then rather. So then if you have your then is basically that particular condition that you want to test. So the outcome that you want to establish. So you put them in your then clause. Then after that, if you have more than one assertions to perform, or you have more than one test or testable outcome you want to achieve, so you can put them in the and clause. So then if you have more than one scenario, start another scenario with the same level. So that is that. I will show you now. We'll go to Visual Studio. 1 minute. So example is the one that we did last week. So as you can see, you have feature, right? And you have the name of that feature, registration. So you can as well put, it's possible you can do this. It allows you to put spaces, that's fine. So in order to use Giftread.com, I need to register. So you can as well indent it just for readability sake. That's one, you can do that. So and then it follows your scenarios. So if you can also, you can indent it, but it doesn't do anything to be honest. So that your feature is embedded with an indentation. So you can do this like that. So and some people will do it like that, just to make sure that okay, it's kind of easy to understand. So you can see given, when, and then. So you have your given and you have two givens basically. So what I have done here is the same thing as a given this, right? So giving and giving. So it is very, very important that you know that it's the same thing. So, but instead of saying it twice, giving and giving, so you would replace that with and that's it. And you have a then clause. So, and let's now try to do a negative testing for this now. I'll copy this so that you save time. So for another issue that you will encounter is, for instance, I've got this one like this right now, same name and same name. You should not have scenarios with same name. Let me try to run my code and you see what the issue is. So along the line, when in this particular course, I'll be telling you what are issues that you will find and how to solve them. So as you can see, it's saying that that particular feature already, the feature file already contains a scenario with name registration. So you know you should not have the same scenario name in the same file, in the same feature file. So what you need to do is you have to rename one of them. So this particular one, what we are going to do, we are planning to do negative testing. Let's say we put it negative test. So, and in this one, as you can see, one thing I will also need you to pay attention to is your test is going to be binded, is going to have one binding in your step definition. As you can see, I've just copied this one and this one. Both of them is going to have one binding, basically. So if I go here to my step definition, this is the step definition for this. The same thing, if I go back and I go into the next one for the negative test, it's going to be the same step definition. So that's the good thing about feature file. You don't need to repeat about Specflow rather. You don't need to repeat that step basically. So each one of them is got the same binding basically. So, and the only thing that will make it not to bind is when this particular text is changed. If the text remains the same, it's going to bind. That is one way. If the text does not change, it's going to bind. As long as this particular text is the same, you've written this text somewhere, and it's the same with somewhere you've written that particular text before, it's going to bind to the previous step definition that you've written. So, but another thing that will make this not to work is, for instance, if I change this to a when, for instance, you can see it changes to blue. And the same way now, this is now also changing to both of them, because what happens now, I don't have a when clause for when I navigate to the site. It's only the giving clause that I've got. And this one also is a giving clause. What happens now, because I've changed this to a when, this also becomes a when. So because this becomes a when, then this is no longer binding. So for instance, if I change this now to a given, you can see this is got binding because this one is a giving clause. So, and this still remain without any binding because I don't have any step definition with a when clause. So let's change that back to giving. Let's change that back to giving. As you can see, it's now binding. Is binding. If I say is binding, is because it's changing from white, purple to white. Basically, if he hasn't got any step definition behind it, it's going to be purple, like I said last week. But if you have binding step definition, you're going to have a white step. Okay, so now let's say I come here now, because for the negative testing we want to enter incorrect password, and then or we enter valid password, and then we enter incorrect password for the confirmation. So let's say now I say I enter a wrong password. Okay, so now this now becomes a new test. So because it's different from the previous one that I have written, it becomes a new test that that I need to generate a step definition for. So to generate a step definition, I've studied last week. So I'm going to show you another way to do that. So I've told you about how to use step definition, generate step definition from here. But I've advised that you only use this one if you are starting afresh and you have not done any step definition before, so that you can create a new file with all your step definition. But because we have got a step definition already created, so we just need to update that particular. So what I will do is I will right click, for instance, okay, if I right click on this particular, enter the last name, and I say go to definition, I'm expecting it to go into that particular step definition that I've written for that step, which is what it actually does. So now if I go back to my feature and I do the same thing for the purple one, and I say go to definition. So I'm expecting it also, you would think that it should go into that particular step definition, because there's no step definition already created for that step. It's going to throw an error for you. Well, the error is also very, very meaningful. It's going to tell you that, okay, I don't have any step, but can I create one for you? And you're going to say yes. Let's do that quickly. So as you can see, there's no matching step binding found for this particular step. So it now said, do you want to copy this step binding skeleton to the clipboard? Yeah, you will say yes, because now it's already extracted a skeleton of that particular step for you, and you can copy that and say yes. It copies that. Then you now need to paste it in your step definition. So right now we only have one step definition, so which is this one. So if I know what I am doing right, I can click here and I paste where exactly, anywhere. But since this is a training and I know some people are very new to this, I will tell you the best option is for you to right click. I know that I want to paste my step definition, the new one, in any close to this particular one, right, in the same step definition that this particular step is. So I will go into this particular step definition. That should take me to the step definition. That is it. Then I advise you paste it at the top after your braces. Put an enter key. So paste it at the top. As time goes on, you will get better and you know how to rearrange this thing. But at the start, make sure you paste what you are pasting after the class and after the braces, because I've seen some newbies, they just go and paste it anywhere because they don't know what they do. We're going to explain this particular code later, but for you to know, because this is kind of framework basically, and it's object-oriented programming. Sometimes you don't need to know most of what goes under the hood, because that's the point of object-oriented programming. And test automation, if you follow this step, you're going to be good. You are okay. So that's why I will be telling you what mistake that you can make and then how to resolve it basically. So now I've told you the first thing is I go to the right click on one of the steps that you want to use the step definition for, and you right click and you go in there. So go to the top of it where you are the public class of that particular step, okay? And it will start with the braces. So after the braces, press enter key, then paste what we've copied. So let's go and paste, okay? So that is it. So, and I have pasted it, right? So now, if I go back here, as you can see, it's still showing purple because I haven't saved. You need to save both of them for them to bind together. So if you have not saved them, there will not be any binding. So it's very, very important. So now I'm going to save all the files. So as you can see, it changed. So if you are having purple, sometimes it might be because you've not actually saved your files. So, and you need to save it for it to change, basically. So, and it's very, very important. And make sure your step definition is where you can actually see it. As you can see, mine is in my step definition folder. And when I expand that folder, I can see my step definition here, basically. So that is one. Another issue that you will find yourself is when you have two-step definition. So let's say, how do you do that? Okay. So for instance, some people, let's say now I have pasted this one and I didn't know, I pasted another one, right? So it becomes two, right? So what issue is this? Basically, it's going to tell me that this one, there's already a defined member called this name. So it's not possible for me to have it. That is one. So then clearly I know that I need to delete one of them. This is the easy part. So you just remove it. That one is easy. So let's try to run our test. Build. You all need to build your solution so that you know if there's error or not, basically. So because as you are building, it creates a DLL for you. You don't need to worry if you are a newbie about this, basically. I'll try to make it simple. So what you need to do, just right click on your solution. It's a good practice if you are new to this, just at every particular time, make sure you build your solution so that you don't want to see any errors at all. So if you build your solution, okay, before you even do that, I would even advise you clean, actually. Say clean your solution. The purpose of cleaning is like it removes your DLL files, and then so I will show you what it does when it cleans, actually. 1 minute. So, okay. 1 minute. Let me go to where the file is located. So as you can see, this is my feature file. This is my feature folder, and that's where you go, my feature folder, as you can see. And you got the hooks, you've not actually used that. So you got the OBJ, this is basically created automatically. So, and you got my page objects, we've not used that. My step definition, the one I created is this one. So, and we've not used this folder, and we've not used folder. And this is the project file, basically. So, and the bin directory is where you have your DLL and everything. So, and your exe file. So, and so you have everything there. So when you start writing your code, it's a good practice to clean and to build. So when you clean, it removes all the DLL and everything, and then you build again. It actually builds your solution, confirm that there's no error, and also that the DLL is created. So as you can see, so now, and it's going to give you the report to show you that there's no error at all. So if you find any errors, then you need to fix it before you continue, because your test is not going to show, it's not going to run. Then, if you go to your test explorer, you can see the test right now. You can see I've got registration and I've got registration test negative, a negative test basically. So, and these are the two scenarios. The first scenario, registration, that's the one, and the second scenario is this one. So, and now we're going to create another feature now. Okay, we're going to create another feature now. So, and we're going to call this particular feature, let's call it login. So we right click, you go to feature, I will call it login dot feature. So that creates this one for us. So you can remove the idiot text that you put in there. So I will say as a user. I want to log in. So then your first scenario will be login. Let's see. So now the first thing that we need to do for you to log in, you need to navigate to the site. So you need to say, given I navigate to the site. As you can see now, I've written this right. It's purple. But however, if I go into my registration, I've got this one. So when you are writing your step, you need to be consistent. Giving and navigate to the website, or in the login, and I put giving and navigate to the site. So it's showing me purple because there's no step for that particular text. But if I say giving and navigate to the website, can you see that automatically it's got a binding because I've already got a step definition for this particular text already. So I don't need to do anything. Basically, I don't need to create a new step definition for it. It will bind automatically because they are the same text. So, but if you remove this, it's no longer the same thing again. So you need to bear in mind that your feature step has to be you have to be consistent when you are writing it, basically, so that you don't duplicate your effort. So otherwise, if you say giving an navigate to websites, you have to write another step definition for this. So bear that in mind. So when you go to the site, what do you want to do? You click and I click on login button. So when I enter username, so followed by and I enter password. Let's say this. So okay. So you can as well just and I enter password. So and then I am logged in. So these are our steps. As you can see, this is basically in there. So it's already in this one, it's already mapped. So, and this is not mapped because it seems it's new. So if you go into our registration, right? So we don't have username, we only have first name and last name. Let's assume there's a username here. So automatically you would be mapped. So, let's say now, what we have now, we have 1, 2, 3, basically. So that needs to be mapped. And in this case, we can maybe, when we now generate, maybe we don't want these particular steps to be in this registration because they are no registration, they are for login. So we want to create another step for login. So you would right click and you say generate now because you want to generate a new step definition. So you call it, as already given us name, the class name, login step, and I will say generate. So then I want to generate it in this particular folder. I've mentioned this because I saw in the workshop some people save their step definition at a location where they don't know at all, because normally it will propose a location for you like this one. But I would advise people not to just look at, just say, oh, save, and they think that it's going to go into that location, or they are not sure. You might not be sure about the location. So what I normally advise is you click at the top here. So because I know this is my project folder, so I click on that and I click on my step definition. So by this, I am very sure I am saving into my step definition folder. It is very, very important because otherwise you might save into a different location and you will not be able to find your step definition again. I think someone has got that particular issue. So I would just click on save, and then you will see your step. If you don't see your step definition here, so it means you've done something wrong. So as you can see, this is not changed, even though I have created a step definition for that. So like I said, I need to save. So once I save that, I'm expecting it to change. So, but however, it's not changing. So this will be another issue that you have. To be honest, if it's not changing, what you need to do is to go to your step definition, just make a little change. Yeah. For instance, if I just put an enter key here, and let's go back to our feature file and see what happens, then I saved everything. So as you can see, I would say sometimes that is a bug basically in Specflow. But if you have issues like that, you can just go to your step definition, make a little change. So even if you want to change it back, that's fine. So that it sometimes happens if you just create a new step, basically. So you just make a little change and save it, and then you're fine. Okay, so so that is where we are on on feature file. Any question? Because what we've done is we've written a simple feature file. So and now we'll talk about the tag later. So what we have now, we now have 2 feature files and 2 step definitions. And another thing that you can see is like this particular step feature file has got the step definition in both this particular step definitions. The giving and navigate to the website is in registration step, and when I logged in, then I am logged in is in the login step. So I did not duplicate it into different, like this one is not duplicated, this particular one is not duplicated. It's inside only one registration step, so you need to bear that in mind basically. Any question? We just created a community, a feature called community. So, and that feature is this one, right? So let's just update this. So the same way you need to navigate to the site, given I navigate. So you can actually, when you start typing, you can propose what you want. So given I navigate to the website, so that is there. So then, so when I click on community, So let's say this is one, just a simple one. Then I am on the community page. So just a simple step. So now for us to do this, we have to, if you say copy and we go here and we copy this step, it will be fine because we can paste it into any of these steps. That will be fine. That will not generate the issue that we're talking about. The issue that we're talking about is when you create your step definition and your picture and you save your picture file is still blue, it's still purple instead of showing you white. So let's try to recreate it, right? So now what do I need to do? I need to regenerate this. So when I generate the step, so right click and click on generate and say generate. So, and I'm sure I want to save it in this particular folder. That's it. So I want to call it community steps, which is fine. And I click on save. So, and when I click on save, I have saved it. It's already saved, basically. So if you save, that's it. Now it's there. But it's still showing purple. But I've got my step already. So if I right click, let's say if I right click, it's saying that there's no binding. But I'm very sure I've got a binding because in there, because what happened now is you could generate another one. So this could be another issue that people are facing, right? You would say, okay, generate, and you call this one now 2. So that's where the problem starts because now you're going to have 2 steps for one 2-step definition for one feature step, basically, which is not. So what you need to do if you have this issue like this is to go into the step definition that you've just created, like this one, the community one. So, and this is the community. What you just need to do is, even if, let's say, even if you don't do anything, let's just say we resave it, basically. And we go back. So, okay, that does not do anything. So, what you just need to do, even for me to just put a space like that, so that there is something to change. So as you can see, it's ready to save, and I click on save, and you can see it's binding. So technically, I'll say that, yeah, it's kind of an issue with Specflow. So, but that's how to solve that issue. So from going forward, let's say I now say, of course, from here you would need to save that particular file again. So, and it's fine. So you won't have any issue with that going forward. So because you would just save basically, and it will be binding. Does that answer the question? Okay. Okay. So another question is not duplicated. So it does mean that we have 3 steps in the step definition for login. No. Okay. If you mean like for this one right now, so like for instance now, we have one step definition, but we now have the same step being used everywhere. But you only need one step definition for it. Like you can see, this one is in this particular registration step. So anytime I say giving and navigate to the website, it goes into this particular one. So if peradventure you now double copy and you put another one here into the login step, you now have another giving and navigate another in this one, right? Let's see what is going to happen. Is you will have error message. Let's save it. So before, okay. Okay, so you can see there is no error message because I haven't saved it, right? So if I save this particular step now, because save it. So you have one in the login step and you have one in the registration step, basically. So that's what you have. So that's us. Okay, there will not be any error message, but let's see what the issue will be. If you go to, you can see that now it's showing purple. It's showing purple because it's confused of which one to take. So if you go in there into the other one also, to the community feature, it's showing purple. The login is showing purple. Registration is showing purple. Right click and say go to definition. It's now going to tell you that you have two, you've got two. So now it's saying you have multiple matching binding, right? And then what you need to do is you need to go to one of them and delete them, and delete that particular one you don't want. So I'll go into my login steps dot giving and navigate to and delete that one. So because that is kind of a duplicate. So I go to the login step and I remove this one I copied mistakenly because I thought I didn't have that particular step. So technically, a step will only appear in your solution. So then you can use it in any feature file. In your solution, once you have the step already defined in your step, you can use it anywhere in your feature file. So that's how it works. Okay. What if additional code? Okay, I think I might have answered this. I think it's can't see the screen anymore. I'm not sure that's it. Okay, cool. Now, the first question, I'm not sure maybe I've answered your question. It says, what if the additional code is after the then clause? Do we click anywhere in the code? Oh, okay. Or after the then clause? Okay. All right. I get what you mean right now. Okay. What you're saying is, let's say you will have another scenario. Then I should be logged in, and let's say I now have my name is displayed. So let's say I've got two things to confirm. I'm confirming that I am logged in. I'm also confirming that my name also is displayed on the site, basically. So what I can do, right click, right, and say go to step definition to generate my step definition. So once I say yes, and your question is, where do I paste it? Because this one is at the end. Should I paste it at the end or should I paste it in the beginning? Like I said, it doesn't matter where you paste your step definition as long as it's in any class. It's going to be binding. It's going to bind to anyone. So you can paste it here, you can paste it here, you can paste it anywhere, basically, and it's going to bind. That's what happens when you paste it anywhere and you are not sure where you pasted it. But it's going to be binding, but you don't know where you pasted it. So you need to be sure of where you want it to be so that when you are arranging your test, you know that, okay, things are arranged in order. So like I said, I can paste anywhere, but because this is registration, I'm going to paste it on registration step. So if I go into registration step also, I can paste it anywhere, basically. I can paste anywhere in this particular registration code. Why I said you should paste at the top is for newbies, they don't know where to post because you can't just paste it in the middle of another method. For instance, you cannot just, you can say, hey, I'm pasting it here. This is going to give you error. Basically, as you can see, if you run this now, it gives an error message because you are pasting a method inside another method. It's going to give you an error. So I'm going to undo that. Okay, and build my solution again so that all this error goes away. Okay, cool. But what I said, just to follow a process, right? So you go to the beginning of your code and you look for where your class starts from. After the braces, you put an enter key and you paste it there. It doesn't matter where that particular feature step is, whether it's at the top or at the bottom, it's okay. You can paste it anywhere in your step definition and then you can save. As you can see, it's bind. You already got binding for it, so that's it. So quickly, as you can see, what happened because object-oriented programming. So you have your using clause. You are using a class called system. So this is automatically generated for you, basically. So we are using a class called system, and we are using Specflow. So for you to be able to use it in your code, you need to call them. You need to invite them. Basically, you need to say, "I need to use you. For me to use you, please." You need to put it at the top of your class. Then also, you start with your namespace. Your namespace is kind of like a folder-ish. Where is my this particular class? Where can I find it? If I go into my project and I go into my step definition folder, I should be able to see this particular class called registration step, the one that we've seen before. So let's say I go into my folder and let's go back a bit. So now this is my Blue Sky Test Framework 1. That's it. Then if you go into my step definition and you can see the registration step. So your namespace technically is conforms with your folder structure. Then after that, you have your braces. Braces basically is another compartment. You start like, okay, this is my namespace, and actually confine that namespace to the beginning of your namespace, and the end of it is where you have the closing braces. So when you are writing your code, you need to make sure that every opening brace there is corresponding closing braces for it. So if you have a bracket that you opened at the beginning, you must close it at the end. The next one now is your binding. So binding, this one is called annotation, basically. So annotation allows you to be able to say, because as you can see in our feature file is only English. As you can see, it's given when then. How would C# know this particular? How will they know that this particular line should represent a code? So that is the purpose of the binding. If you go in there, so the binding does this. The binding allows you to be able to say then that. So for instance, if I comment this binding out, so all this will generate error for me. Let me run build. Let me clean and build. Okay. So let's say, so it's going to generate, it's going to deter. So this is registration. Let's go. So basically, that's what happens. Let's go see if there's any. So there's no binding at all, basically. There's no binding. So that what happens. So if I go in there now on the registration and put the binding back. So let me save it and run build again. So if you go back, as you can see now, it's binded. So it's got a binding. So that's what happens. So this is kind of annotation that allows you to be able to bind your step definition with your feature file, basically. And the next step that you have after the binding, the annotation, is your public class and the name of the class. So the class that you created will have the visibility. Maybe if time permits, we're going to look into that. The public is saying that this particular class is public. You can actually call it in different places. We might have like a mini C# class for like but I would advise you to look into how and get a C# training, to be honest, if you really want to go far in this, basically. But we'll focus on what is required for you to be able to do automation. So now public is saying that it is general for everyone, right? Class, so class is the data type for this particular login step. So I'm saying that login step is a class. So, and then you have an open, my brace. So as you can see, this is one brace and this is another brace. I open this brace and there will be a corresponding one that closes it. So that's that. Then also you have a given. So this one is the annotation for the given clause. So as you can see, this is the text inside the given clause, basically. As you can say given, I click on the login button. So if you go to the login feature, given, I click on the login. That's basically it. So that is this step. And it's just going to say given, and because this and also is a given clause. That's what is happening. So that's why sometimes if you change this to a when, then it's not going to be binding with this one again because you already have a given for this. Or so let's quickly do that, and if I change this to a when, so as you can see, it is not binding. So, but if I come here again and I change this to a when and I save it, it's going to bind now with this one with the login feature. Yeah, it's now binding basically. So what I am telling you is how this is mapped with your feature basically. So this is the changes back to the given, and then this also becomes the given, and let's say it's back. Okay. So the next thing that you have is your method. Actually, this is what actually does all the job basically. But this is a C# method. This is one that is going to say, okay, this is what I need to do. It's going to execute what is inside this particular method. But this one now binds this particular method that is in C# with the feature file that you have that's got the given and it's got this particular text after the given. That's what this means. So we've not actually written anything. So what happens is, what we need to now write is the step to click on login button. That's what we're going to do maybe next week. So from here, we'll just make it blank, right? So also this one, I can make it blank. So it's not going to do anything. It's going to just pass. So, but later we would put the step in there. And see, Specflow is very, very intelligent. That's why they put this actually. Because by putting this, so for instance, if I remove it and I don't put anything, my test will run because it's not going to do anything. And if I forget this step, right, and then it's possible my test will run, or if I put everything and I didn't actually put any step at all, my test will run. But basically, that's kind of a cheating. Basically, my test will do nothing. But for it to prevent that, you have this pending, right? Which when you run your test, it's going to show amber for you, basically. The amber also is showing that, okay, you have a pending test that you've not actually written. So you go in there and you now write the retest, basically, because this is just saying, oh, my scenario context for this particular instance is pending. So you would remove this line and you put the right code. For instance, now how to enter wrong password, you put that in there. So let's say I comment this one also out, just for safety. Oh, okay. I think this one is fine because and also this is not what will be there anyway. This is us just testing to show that, okay, is this really working? So for next week, we'll put the real code in there to replace all this. So this is not, so it might be we'll start from beginning, so that because some people, if not following the order, they get confused. So, but however, you need to know how to troubleshoot your code when you got issues. So that's why this is very, very important for us to do it as early as possible. So, and that is okay. Any question? I think. Or if I ever answered your question, is that okay? All right, cool. All right, any other questions? So I would, if there's none, I will continue with the. Okay. All right. So we've covered this one. So then, like I said the line number is not required, so it's just for reference purpose. So for line 2 to 4, it's going to be escaped because it's just information. It's not going to be executed. So if you don't have line 2 to 4, it doesn't matter. As long as you have line 1, your line 1 will have feature with semicolon, and then you put whatever you want to tie to your feature. Then the next line that's important is your scenario. Scenario with a colon, then the text that you want to describe. So then after that, this, it's basically text, to be honest. So even though it is in given when then, as I have shown it to you, so it's only binding to your set definition. So even if you put a when here, when, and you put given, and you put when, and you put given, and you put then, or you start your clause with a then, it will still work basically because it's going to bind to what you want and it's going to run. Because I've gone for an interview and someone asked me the question. So if you put a then here, is your test going to work? As long as it's got a binding, yeah, it's going to work because it's just normal text and it's going to bind to your step definition. However, that is not the proper way to do it. You want to start with a given and you want to have your actions in your when. So except from the fact that it doesn't follow the right approach. So, but in terms of the code will still run for you. So, okay. So the general approach will be like you have given and you have when, and you have then. So that will be your general structure. So yeah, like I've said, yeah, in your giving will be like, what state would you want your state to start from? That is one. Or what is the precondition that needs to be ascertained before you start your testing? So that is what you put in a given clause. So a known state or a precondition that needs to be ascertained before you can start your testing. So you put those one in a given. So, and your when will describe your key actions, basically. What are the things that users will need to do? You put them in your when. So, and for instance, a sample of a given is like I've mentioned right now, logging by a user. Then also in a when clause, we've seen an example when you enter your username or you enter your password or something. So then after that, you have a then clause. Then clause allows you to ascertain your outcomes. So you want to check if your outcome is as expected. So you put those one in your then clause. So example is when you are verifying that you've logged in or the person is the right user that logged in. So okay, let's look at that in manual testing. So in manual testing, you have your test condition. So in BDD, your test condition is your feature. So also in manual testing, you have your precondition. In BDD, your precondition is the given clause, and your action will be the when. Your expected behavior is the then. Then when you verify your actual behavior, is basically your test is being run. Also, it's going to be on the then clause. So, however, verifying, in some cases, your test can fail in the given, and it can also fail in the when. So, when you are verifying the actual behavior, it's not only the then, basically. It's going to be kind of in the given when then your test will fail. So then you have your outcome, right? So then you create a result file. So we'll look into that. So this an example right now. I think we don't need this because we've got a real example that we've covered anyway. And we've looked into this also, writing it down. So yeah, I just put an example here right now that if you want to write this one, let's say I'm posting an item on Gift. So if I want to write it in manual test, I will say this is my test condition, post and add. The same thing will be my feature file, features step, the feature title rather, I will say post and add. So then after that, I will put my step in my precondition will be go to Gift, log in, and so that will be my precondition. So however, in Specflow, this won't be my giving clause, giving and navigate to Gift, and also I'll log in as this and this. So these are my preconditions. So basically what I need to do before I can post an ad. So my action is now posting an ad also. So then when I post an ad, so there are different school of thought in BDD. Some people kind of put a lot of steps in one line. Some people like kind of split everything out, basically. Like instead of saying instead of saying when I post an ad, some people will put that as a one line. So in your step definition, you have different steps to be for you to be able to post an ad. But there's other which are actually fancy, right? You will break them down and you will say when I enter title of the ad, when I enter description of the ad, when I upload file, when I click on submit. Basically, you kind of specify all the steps instead of putting them together like this. So, but we'll look into this later as during the course of the training. So I have explained the feature. This is a keyword basically. So this is the keyword that will start your feature file. So, and also you have your scenarios. You can have as many scenarios as possible in a feature file. So then also you have your scenario steps. So your scenario steps is the one that you will convert into step definition basically. So, and these steps is in given, when, and then. So, and as well also you can use table and multi-line arguments. So we're going to use that later. So, but we talked about this briefly right now. So, and okay, I'll talk about this briefly. So in some of your tests, you might want to pass more than one table, more than one data. So in that regard, you might need to use table, or you might need to use data table, or you might need to pass as an argument, basically. So we look into this also as time goes on, but this is kind of like introductory one. So also tags, this is very, very important. So you may want to run your test based on categories. So you want to say, okay, I want to run regression tests, I want to run smoke tests. So you would tag different tests as on different categories. So let's say we go in there, and let's say we know our login will be part of our smoke test. Our registration will be part of our smoke test, but we don't want community to be part of the smoke test. So what we're going to do, we go to our login, and so we say art. So put a tag. You start with art. You can say smoke, and then we go into our login, our registration rather, and we can say art smoke also. So basically, what does this means that I am actually tagging the registration. So this is in the context of this particular scenario. So that means this particular scenario is not tagged. So when I want to run smoke, only this one will be run. Okay, or I can put this one, if I want this particular scenario to be involved, to also be in the smoke test, I need to write something like this. So that means both of them will be included in the smoke test. But as you can see, I kind of duplicated it, so which is not the best practice. So if all the scenarios in this particular feature needs to be included in smoke test, you would not put it in the context of the scenario. You put it in the context of the feature. So you can say add smoke. So then it means that all the scenarios in this particular feature will be executed when I try to execute only smoke. So, and you can use this for your pipeline and everything. We'll look into this later also along the line. Okay. So, okay. So background also, yeah. So background, you use background so actually, I don't actually subscribe to background, to be honest. So it's used to specify your common feature or your common precondition, basically. Normally, people use it for the given clause, but however, it happens, for instance, let's say in this particular scenario now, so you want to make sure that the common feature are not repeated in your scenarios. As you can see, in this instance now, I have given I navigate to website, and I also got given I navigate to website. And the same thing I've got given I click on that. Instead of repeating this several times, you can bring this one to the top and say background. If you say background, then you bring this one. Let's say the given is then at the top. So, which means that what happens is your background, when you are running the test, the steps in your background will be executed first before the other steps. So I will show you the order now. So what is going to happen? So when this test is run, this is going to be step 1. This is going to be step 2. So So step 1. So this is going to be step 2. So then this will be step 3. And this will be step 4. And this will be step 5. This will be step 6. This will be step 7. This will be step 8. And that's it. So after that, then it goes back again to this and run this one also step 9 and run it again also step 10 before it comes into this one and run this as step 11, then on like that, step 12. Then it continues like that. So basically, your background is run every time the scenario starts. So if you have one scenario, your background is run once. If you have 2 scenarios, your background is run twice. So your background is going to be run for how many scenarios that you have, basically. That's how backgrounds work, actually. Any question? Any question? Okay, quickly, I'll go into scenario outline. So I will not generate it today, but I'll go into scenario outline. Let's go into, let's remove this one. Okay. Copy this one. So now scenario outline allows you to pass data. Okay. Okay, before I do that, I'm going to show you something quickly in terms of data driven, right? So this one, I can decide to pass a parameter because this one, if you go in there into my step definition, so my last name, I need to put it inside my code, basically, for it to come out. But in some cases, you want to pass your parameter in your feature file. What do? You will just need to say, okay, given I enter the last name. So, but let's say now, to make it easy to understand, given I enter my last name. So basically, I am passing my name as a parameter into the feature file. So the same way, you can do the same thing and you enter your password, my secure password. So, and that also, and I can say the first name also. So when I enter my first name and I enter my last name, and this is what I'm going to be entering. So this is another way to do this, because what you are trying to do is you are trying to pass a parameter into this one. You are trying to pass a parameter. So for this, as you can see, in the first one that we did, we only used that particular line. We didn't pass parameters. But in this one now, we are passing parameter. So, and I can change this one to with parameter. So as you can see, it changes. All this one they change to blue, purple. So for me to continue, I need to generate them. So I can go. I've told you different ways. So I told you that the best way, if you are going to be adding up, we are not creating a new step. So because I know that this is from registration steps, so I need to copy them into registration step. So I need to generate the step. So I can do this. I can say go to step definition. So, but if I use go to step definition or go to definition, I can use go to definition or go to step definition. But this is going to copy only one line for me. But I've got 3 lines. So if I want to do the 3 lines at a go, I would just need to say generate step definition. But at this point, I'm not going to say generate, because generate will take me to a place that I will now need to create another file for it, which I don't want. Basically, I don't want to create a different step definition, and moreover, I don't want to overwrite what I have done in my registration step. So what I need to do is right click and say generate. But this time around, I can say copy method to clipboard. So I've showed you 4 steps now to actually generate. So depending on which one you are familiar with or you are comfortable to use. So one is generate, but I said only use that when you are starting or you are creating a step definition file. But if you're not creating a step definition file, you don't need to use that. So, but in this instance, I want to copy my method. I'll copy my method and I'll paste it into my step definition. So I'll go, like I said, let's always put it at the top, or if you are also, because one, I can say put at the bottom, but sometimes you don't know where you are putting it. So that's why I always advise people to put it at the top. So go to the top, paste it. As you can see, more than one method is created for me. So, but another thing that you see that is different is this particular argument. So now it's got a parameter that is passing. So as you can see, it's got, I enter my first name, and you have this annotation also, which is the parameter that you have. So we're going to go and we're going to use this later, but just for us to cover the step definition. So this is for the, if you are passing, yeah. So if you are passing your data in your feature file. So let me just save this one. Okay, cool. So now another way to pass data into your scenario is using scenario outline. So let's copy this one now. I'll use scenario outline. So for you to use scenario outline, you have to start with the keyword scenario outline. So scenario outline. So then one thing that's common in scenario outline is every scenario outline would be followed with example. You have examples. Then example, so initially we have this, say first name, I pass the name directly. But I don't want to pass the name directly. I want to pass like first name, the title of what I'm doing. So, and this is going to be my last name. And this is going to be password. So this is not in its format. So that's the title. So now I can come into the example and click on pipe and then first name and last name. So those are my label password. So this allows me to be able to put more than one data. So I can say AG password. So let's say I'm entering invalid password. Let's say, and I say, so and I enter wrong password. So let's say I put this one here. So allows you to write something like this. So you can have multiple data. Okay. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, it should not be. I think yeah. So I should not. So that should be not. So the same thing also is applicable to this one. I should not be blockchain because so you need to generate that one and put it in your step definition. So this will be, you expect this to be different passwords, so which is fine. Yeah. So that is, yeah, this is using scenario outline basically. So there's some question. Let's see. What if you put your giving in your background? I don't think it's wrong way of writing code. Yeah, it's not. If you put your giving in your background, it's not. But you need to be sure that you would, you know what you are doing basically. That your scenario would, your background will run before your scenario will run, and also anything that you put in your background, it's consistent. Yeah, it's a common component that needs to be executed before any of your scenario step is executed. But why I don't like background is because sometimes, in most cases actually, it actually makes your scenario not to be meaningful when someone is reading it. For instance, now I say giving, I navigate and I click. When I enter, it kind of flows like that. So, but if you come here right now, it says when I enter, so you've lost the context of that giving. So you have to now go back and read it again. So that's the only bit. As you can see now, if you come here now, you already lost the context of that given when you are reading it. But when you're executing it, it doesn't make any difference actually, because it's going to execute the given clause before the when anyway. But it's only when you are reading it, and I told you one way why BDD is also used is the fact that it can be easily read by the users. So that is kind of a disadvantage of using the background. So okay. So if all scenarios in your feature file have the same entry point of going to a particular URL, can you put your given in the background and start when? Okay. Yeah, the answer is yes, you can do that. But however, I'll tell you now also, since we've done the parameterize, also you could also do something with that actually and say given I navigate to websites, and you can put it in a parameter. So let's say you have www.gizpage.com. So, which means that you can as well just change it to whatever the link is, basically. So it's going to be bound with different URL, basically. So you can parameterize your URL also. That's one way to also do that. So should it? Okay, I have acquired that one. So yeah, all right. I think that will be it for today. I think I have comments. I've mentioned the comments. Then this one, I've done this one last week. So if you want, you can go to specflow.org. So you can read more on those things. Okay, I think that will be all now. Any question? So the assignment for people that are doing the internship is for you to write your feature files. So you need to write your community login. Your login should you log in with valid users and you log in with invalid users. And as well also registration should be fine. So but login with valid users, login with invalid users, and your login should use examples, and your login try also to also use parameter. You don't need to put anything in there. It's just for you to ease up your feature files and your step definitions. And it's okay to comment those pending scenarios out so that your test runs. So for instance now, let me run my test just to be sure everything is fine. So I've got one error. So it's saying that, okay, I've already got one. So if I go in there, so I've got this. Okay, so I'll just call that number 2 because you cannot have same name. Scenario name, basically. Okay, alright. So now, if I go into my features, I can remove this. So just go replace in this file. So I want to replace that one, just replace everything. Just remove the scenarios basically, so you don't need to worry about that. So one thing also here, when you are building, so you have clean. So I say always do clean. Clean will clean everything for you. Then you can build. But you also have rebuild. Rebuild does clean and rebuild at the same time. So if you also want to, so to use rebuild. So let's run the test. Okay. So this one this one passed, so let's look at what the issue is. Okay, because this one needs to be, we need to create a binding for them. So registration, so let's go. As you can see, what I was saying before is I can paste it here because I know what I'm doing, so I can paste it in the middle. So, but I only advise people, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know where to paste it, you paste your feature file at the top of your steps. So let's run this test again. So it's saying that, let's see why is that. Okay, this one now. So let's say we'll take that back. Okay. Okay, so that's green now. So let's see what is that now. Okay, this one. So that one is different. So into, and I think it should even tell you which one is missing from here anyway. So let's go to registration and paste that one. So that's so let's see. As you can see before, another way to actually check is if you have a parameter, right, and you pass your parameter, it's not going to show purple for you, but you're going to have like that peach color saying that it's not, you don't have any binding. So you need to take that into consideration. You need to take that into consideration. So when you are actually passing a parameter, sometimes or in most cases, it will not show purple for you because it's got parameter. So it will show the pitch that shows that you don't have a binding. So you can create a binding for it. So, and let's build now. I think it should be fine from here. Okay. The test actually has run on its fast, but apparently the test is not doing anything anyway. So, but from next week, we'll be putting the content of these particular steps in there. So, any question? Okay. If there's no question, so I hope everyone has got the assignment basically. So, you are meant to to finish this step and also to write the feature step and also the step definition. For your login, you need to use example for different valid and invalid login, and also you need to do the same thing for the registration, and look into GitHub on how to push your code into GitHub. So if time permits next week, we'll look into Git also, because all your code should be in GitHub. It's very, very important. I've seen people, because it's in GitHub, you can go for an interview and you can tell them, oh, this is my GitHub repository, and you can show them right in there. And your GitHub also repository should come. You can put it in your CV, so for everyone to see. That I'm not going to post the assignment. That is the assignment basically. So the assignment will not be written down. So that is the assignment. So assignments, once again, you need to write your login. Your login now will have valid and invalid login, basically. And then you would need to use examples for some of them, and also try to use the parameter for some of them. So for the login, and also you will need to write your registration same way also, with valid registration and invalid registration, with parameters and invalid also. Okay. All right, that is it. Okay. Enjoy your week. I will see you again next week. Thank you. The assignment is due on Sunday next week. Any more questions? Otherwise, we call it tonight. What do you mean by what application? It's the same application that I have used this evening. So, givefree.com, basically. Yeah. Okay. All right. That is fine. But you can as well look into Git and see if you can, use it, because if you start to work, there will be some other things that you have to learn by yourself. So before then, let everyone look into Git, right? All right. Have a good week ahead. So, and good night to everyone.